of Pivy/Ian Does It All. Um, Today, I wanted to talk about something, a lot of things, I guess. You know, um, Especially with this being the last day of Mental Health Awareness Month. Um, it kind of flew by, so of course, I get to it at the very end, but I wanted to talk about it because it's important, and a lot of people deal with mental health issues, and or maybe you're thinking that someone you know might have something going on, and I just wanted to talk about my own experience. I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth or, um, you know, portray any kind of disorder as anything other than what it is. I just want to talk about my experience, and hopefully that's helpful to somebody. And if it's not, well, I've made this video for nothing, because it's definitely something that I'm not um, super comfortable talking about. Um, I'm saying a lot because I'm filling the space because I don't even know how to begin a conversation like this. Uh, I wanted to talk about my mental health because it's been something that has been I've been aware of for about 15 years, um, and I also have had a recent kind of stumble in my mental health journey, and that has led to a bunch of changes in my life. And some changes I've kind of briefly talked about. Some things I, um, you know, haven't really discussed that much in detail. I'm not going to give you every detail of my life because, frankly, that'd probably be pretty boring. But also, just like like to maintain a level of privacy. Um, I feel like it's important to talk about certain struggles I've had with mental health because there are people, like I said, out there living with the same disorders that I have, or different disorders, but just kind of um, know what it's like to be a little bit out of control of your own mind. Um, and I'd like to help in any way that I can break stigma against certain mental health issues. And you know. So I guess with that, we'll talk a little bit about my own experience. So if you have any questions about any of the things that I say, any of the terms, any of the disorders, any of the symptoms, anything like that, um, please feel free to talk in the chat. There will not be um, any negative talk, um, in the sense that we say everybody who has this is this. We're not going to generalize. We're not going to talk poorly about people if we can help it. Um, but if you have questions, I want to encourage questions and encourage a conversation about mental illness, or mental health rather, and how mental illness kind of plays into that. So I guess I'll just kind of get started. So I have bipolar disorder. I have bipolar 1, which the difference between bipolar 1 and bipolar 2 is bipolar 1 has extended periods of mania included, whereas bipolar 2 does not have a classified manic episode. It doesn't mean these people can't get into a state of mania. It just means that they're not prolonged enough to be considered bipolar 1. They are treated slightly differently with medications, but it's just so knowing that, I guess does something. I have borderline personality disorder, and that I'll talk about each one kind of separately, but we'll just get them all out of the way. I have generalized anxiety disorder. I have post-traumatic stress disorder. Um, Technically, I guess I have complex post-traumatic stress disorder, but um, it I think they manifest similarly. Sometimes I don't know. I don't know. I'm still learning a lot about that one. That's probably my newest diagnosis, um, and um, is that it? I always feel like I have like 80 diagnoses, and it turns out I don't have that many. I think that's it. Um, so I thank you for joining me. I'm talking about mental health and mental illness today on this final day of Mental Health Awareness Month. Um, Please feel free to ask questions. Please be friendly with your questions because this is a sensitive topic for a lot of people, and I want people to feel comfortable asking questions and talking about this subject. Um, so, um, I got diagnosed with the majority of my diagnoses uh, when I was 15, and some people say that that is a little early, but um, for a lot of people, problems with mental health start kind of becoming a little bit more visible during puberty. Um, Jokes on you guys, I'm going through puberty again, but luckily the pendulum has not swung to a way that has made it, you know, worse or anything like that. Um, so I got diagnosed at 15, and I uh, didn't quite know how to deal with these new diagnoses because your whole view of how you um, frame your personality shifts because you now have this label attached to you. And, there are many labels in life that we kind of select for ourselves. Um, are you a girly girl? Are you a punk? Are you a goth? Like things like that. You pick for yourself, by what you do and how you act and what you wear and stuff like that. And there's labels we don't choose, like being trans and being bipolar and things like that. And so dealing how uh, figuring out how to deal with um, that change was really disruptive for me. And I kind of for a while, and I was so young, I was 15, so like, I'm not fully mentally developed at that point. Um, but you know, I can't I every emotion I felt, I just kind of blamed on bipolar disorder, or I blamed on borderline personality disorder. And um, that's not really how it works. While you can't blame every action on your disorder, it does influence your actions. So it's not like it's like, here's Ian, and here's this bipolar disorder, and here's this borderline, and they're different, except sometimes the bipolar comes over and the bipolar takes over. It's like we're always working together. And sometimes the bipolar is a little bit stronger than my own will and is trying to come out. So I it took me a long time to kind of realize that. And when I say a long time, probably about 10 years. Because for a while there, I just tried to forget that I had this disorder, and it was playing a role in my life, but it wasn't, it was doing it in a way such that I just thought, oh, this is how I act. This is who I am. And when you have that attitude and you try to seek treatment, it can be very difficult to be receptive to that treatment because you're like, this is just who I am. And I think that um, I've learned a lot in the past 15 years about how um, how I don't know how I view my interaction with my mental illnesses, and how I can use therapy techniques and medicine to um, control my symptoms. And that's really what it is. It's like if I had a physical disease, then I wouldn't be like, here's me and here's this physical disease. They would play a part together, and um, I would have to treat the symptoms as they came, but I don't get to separate the two. And it's the same with mental illness. Um, so I, um, you know, denial is a big part of being diagnosed. And I'm in a bipolar group and a borderline group on Facebook. And both of them, you get people who are newly diagnosed who either don't agree with their diagnosis, or they don't, um, or they are overwhelmed with this kind of identity crisis, kind of like I was. And, it's just part of the process. So I one part of me coming on here is saying, if this is you're newly diagnosed with anything, um, it's not who you are, but it is a facet of what you have to deal with. And everyone has their hurdles, and some are admittedly harder than others. And um, that's okay. It's okay to have a mental illness or five. It's just, you know, kind of some of it's how you came out of the box. And I don't mean that, no pun intended. Um, and um, some of it is environmental. How you were raised, or something that happened to you. And I have conditions that are both. I have conditions that, like bipolar, that are primarily genetic. Um, and then I have things that are probably more environmental, like borderline personality disorder and CPTSD. And, um, you know, it I am a huge proponent of therapy. I think anyone, whether you are neurotypical, you don't have any mental illnesses, or you have something else going on, I think that therapy is really great, a really great resource, and having a great therapist can be life changing, because we all are faced with difficult decisions and difficult moments in our lives. And um, that's really helpful. I'm also a big proponent of medicine. Now, I know that medicine can sometimes be a controversial topic to discuss because some people would rather face um, a diagnosis without medicine, and that's your business, not mine. Um, I choose medicine for my mental health. Um, I look at how I am medicated versus how I am unmedicated, and I know that primarily being medicated is a better way for me to function and be happy in this life, and that's really what I'm looking for. I'm not looking to be miserable all the time, believe it or not, despite my best efforts. And um, yeah, so I'm not going to talk about what medication I'm on. I feel like one, it's kind of none of your business. Two, it's different for everyone. You could have the exact same diagnoses as me, and your medication list could be completely different, or you could be unmedicated or whatever. Um, and so it really doesn't make a difference what medication I'm on. Also, I am in this period of life, I guess, where I'm dealing with a lot of medication changes pretty frequently, and so I could even tell you what I'm on, and it would probably change within the next 4 weeks. So there's no point. um, I uh, but I I've been through a lot of medication. I have experienced side effects from some medication that are less than desirable. But for me, the pros outweigh the cons, and that's just how I choose to live my life. I don't tell other people how to live their lives, and I expect the same treatment. Um, but if I'm looking at my own quality of life, it's definitely been improved by medication, and I'm thankful for having it in my life. So take that for what you will. Um, I just felt like I couldn't talk about mental health without also addressing medication and what it's done for me. Um, but I don't really want to linger on this topic too much because, um, like I said, medicine's not for everyone, or you might find that, um, you know, just therapy is fine or whatever. Like you might not even need anything, and that's fine too. So, so I had a uh, I have a genetic. So what kind of happened in the last couple years that really changed my life is that um, I uh, so it started by me having, so I was on my mental health medication, and my thyroid, which controls your hormones in your body, um, is one of the things that controls the hormones in your body. You have other glands that do stuff too. But my thyroid became really inflamed and basically stopped functioning entirely. And one of the medications I'm on is known for um, attacking the thyroid. It's one of the potential side effects, I should say. And so they took me off of that medication immediately, and that was my mood stabilizer. And for me, in my medication routine, um, my mood stabilizer is kind of the cornerstone on which the rest of my medication is built around. So to have this really important foundational medication kind of taken away was really disruptive to my life, and I shortly after slipped into a depression, and then I was trying different mood stabilizers. None of them kind of fit. It was kind of like a Cinderella moment where I was trying on all these shoes, or like, I don't know, the shoe didn't fit. Long story short, I'm not going to try to make that metaphor work. Um, and you know, what was I saying? Okay, so the eventually I got to go back on that medication due to the fact that my endocrinologist, who controls hormones and stuff like that, um, or who is the doctor that works with that kind of stuff with glands and whatnot, said you can go back on this medicine. It's not going to make a difference. You would have had this problem anyways, regardless of whether or not you were on this medication or not. So luckily, I was able to go back on it. But in that period of time, I started to experience manic symptoms, and mania is treated a lot differently than depression. So, a little bit about bipolar. Um, Bipolar is categorized as a mood disorder for people who experience. They often say high highs and low lows, and that can be true of people who have bipolar 1, but like I said, bipolar 2, you might not experience that high of highs, but you still experience a little bit of an elevation in mood. Now, being manic is not just being happy. It's not just being really happy. It's like you're on a high-speed train and you're whizzing past everyone else, and you can either be euphoric in this ride that you're on, or you can be irritable and heinous. And that's who I am. I am like, why is nobody going faster? I'm going so fast on this train. Why is nobody going faster? And I feel like it's like, so I'm irritable, and another common trait, one that I experience, is spending money. Like when I was going through like a big yarn kick, like I was manic. I bought a bunch of yarn. I spent a bunch of money that I didn't have, and that is not good. It's not advisable. And you talk faster, you sleep less, you eat less, you have all these changes in your body, that you're restless. It feels just like you want to crawl out of your skin. And again, this is all my experience. Some people really have a good time when they're manic. I don't. I am so irritated, and I just want to peel my skin off, and I just want to fucking do laps around the house. And it's a very uncomfortable place for me to be. So I started to experience some manic episodes, and so the classification of medication that they typically put you on is an antipsychotic. And just the word antipsychotic, I think, kind of brings some feelings to the forefront of what the medication's doing. You're like, oh, it doesn't make you a psycho anymore, and stuff like that. But really, it's about what it's doing with, because you can be manic to the point where you do have a psychotic episode, but it doesn't make you a psychopath or anything like that. It just uh, some people can have a psychotic break in that period of time. So it just works with the brain synapses in your head to uh, to work together a little bit more happily. I don't really know what the science is. You guys did not come here for a science lesson. If you did, I'm really sorry because you are not getting that. But uh, this is antipsychotics are also used to treat epilepsy very often. So it's the same neurotransmitters that control epilepsy. Um, I read something the other day that said it was someone who was bipolar, and she said she had an MRI done, and it showed she was having seizures, but really she was just in a manic episode. Um, so it's really interesting that's kind of how things are read. Um, but uh, so I've been trying different antipsychotics. That's kind of the whole point of why I'm telling you all this. And I had reactions to these medicines and or medications, and the medications were not bad. My prescriber was not bad. It's just they didn't work for me. And unfortunately for me, they the symptoms didn't manifest so clearly that I could tell right away. It took several months of me being on these medications, where I was talking slower, I was moving slower, I just the cogs were turning a lot slower in my head. Um, I've had friends tell me that during that time that they would be talking and joking around, and the conversation would shift to something else, and um, I would, 3 minutes later, I would respond to the joke and with a comment, and it would be like, what? Like, what are you talking about? And so it's like I wasn't with it. I wasn't quick. I wasn't, you know, working. So that delayed reaction, um, unfortunately, because I didn't realize that was going on, and during this time, I was going off and on short-term disability with my work. This is part of the reason why I haven't talked about this a lot, um, because when I was working, I was really nervous to be out about what mental illnesses I was facing. Um, and maybe that is unwise, and maybe it's wise. I don't know. But that's what I chose to do, and I feel more comfortable talking about it now, as I'm trying to get disability for my mental illnesses, and um, so I didn't realize that I was moving slower and working slower and all this stuff, and so when I go to work, I'm like, I'm not getting as much done. I'm really frustrated all the time because I feel like I should be doing more, and I'm not doing as much as I used to be able to do. And I can't put my finger on why I'm going so slow. I'm just moving slow. And I thought it was just like, I didn't even know what to think that it was. I just thought maybe I was having like a period of time where I was moving a little slower, and it turns out it was my medication. But after several medications, having this reaction several times to different medications, um, my work put me on a performance review. And even after, because, I worked for a big corporation, and, they had like an official performance review kind of process. Um, Once they put me on it, I was like, oh shit, like, I like talked to my psychiatrist, and I was like, hey, you know, can you give me a note that says that these have been my symptoms, and I've been suffering with these side effects of these medications. Granted, I wasn't manic anymore, but I was moving really slow, and I was not doing my job well. And that became a problem at work. And so I got the note, but it turned out, they couldn't really do anything about it because, this process had already started, and I had to go through this performance review, program, and, all the stuff. And this is where my anxiety um, and my borderline kind of come into play, because I I I really have a problem with, and my PTSD really, um, but I really have a problem with authority figures thinking that I'm not doing well. And um, I started to have multiple breakdowns a day. I would be in the bathroom at work crying. I was not able to function as an employee or even as an adult. Like, I was just a mess, and I could not do it, I went on short-term disability again because I couldn't finish the program. And when I came back, I had to do the program again, and I had another breakdown. And um, you know, so borderline personality disorder is under the classification of, surprise, surprise, personality disorders. And um, these are disorders that I don't exactly remember. I know I've read it in the DSM, which is kind of the Bible of, mental illnesses. But um, basically, borderline personality disorder um, has a bunch of characteristics. Some of them not too dissimilar from bipolar disorder, while others are distinctly borderline. And kind of uh, it tends to, um, more times than not, I've heard, kind of come from people who have had traumatic experiences in their lives. And um, it is um, it's weird, like, how I was kind of saying, here's, I used to think, here's bipolar and here's borderline. Like, borderline is so enmeshed in how I react to things. Um, you know, I am hypersensitive, I'm hyper emotional, um, and I really try to keep a lot of that under wraps. I try to stay cool, um, but I can have a very sensitive switch in my mood because something messed me up, triggered me, whatever. And these once that switch gets flipped, I don't know that person. It's like I just, I can be extremely sad. I can be, it's extreme mood swings very quickly. And unlike bipolar disorder, these moods don't necessarily last a long time. Bipolar disorder, they last a longer time. So when people are like, ha ha ha, I'm so happy, I'm like, oh, I'm so sad. Like that, that's not bipolar disorder. That's the biggest misconception about bipolar disorder. Well, there are two big misconceptions. One, hey, talking about mental health. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So one big misconception is that if you have mood swings, you are bipolar, and probably not. Um, the Everyone is allowed to have mood swings. Surprise! It's a human trait. Um, when I said that swing from high highs to low lows, um, they are very low lows and they are very high highs, for the most part. These are dramatic mood shifts um, that um, really affect like the quality of life. And, um, you know, people love to say when people have a mood swing, "Oh, you're so bipolar," something like that. That's that's not that's not cool. I personally take offense to that, but whatever. I'm not going to change the world from this one video. Um, Believe it or not, I'm not expecting that. I don't have delusions of grandeur right now, and or really ever. I don't get happy. I just get irritated. But delusions of grandeur is one of those possible symptoms of bipolar. Um, but good God, what was I saying? Sorry, guys. I have the attention span of a goldfish. It's crazy. Oh, yeah. Another misconception about bipolar disorder is that you are crazy. Now, uh, just and this goes with a lot of different uh, by different mental health diagnoses, and this is why Mental Health Awareness Month is so important. Is because you can have one, two more mental illnesses and not be crazy. Um, and you're probably not crazy if you have this because you may you may be seeking treatment or getting treatment or you're just trying to survive and live your life with whatever you've got going on in your head. you know my classification of crazy is people who hurt other people. And if you're not doing that, then that doesn't seem that crazy to me. People do some crazy actions, but that doesn't mean you're mentally ill or vice versa. Um, so, I'll give you a couple examples. So, um, I was watching this show called Cold Justice, and it's a show about it's like a murder mystery show thing that about a prosecutor who helps solve cold cases, and it's a great show. I love this show, and um, they're looking for potential suspects, and um, one of the suspects has bipolar disorder. no other connection to the murder, just has bipolar disorder. And she goes, well, we know he's crazy, so let's keep him on the list. And that's pretty messed up. Just because someone has a mental disorder doesn't mean that they are a murderer. But okay, that's cool, I guess. Another instance that I was watching literally yesterday or the day before, I was watching Bones, and one of the victim of a murder had OCD, and they kept on calling him Crazy Boy, and that's fucked up, right? To be like, you're crazy because you have something going on in your head that you're not totally in control of. It's everybody has something, even if it's not a diagnosable disorder, if nobody's perfectly normal. This illusion of normal is totally out the window, in my opinion. So, um, that's really why I think Mental Health Awareness Month is so important, because it is showing that there are people out there, all around us, living with their own problems. And one, it's important to acknowledge that you don't know what other people are going through, and trying to be, just a civil, nice person, because you don't know what people are going through. And two, it's important for all of us to acknowledge our mental health. Even if it's, you work a lot, you're overworked, you're burnt out, that's mental health right there. So, it doesn't have to be a mental diagnosis for you to worry, or not worry, but like for you to care about your mental health. So, that's important. Um, but you know, I ended up losing my job because they couldn't hold the position for me any longer because of how long I had been out. It's just corporate policy. I didn't take it personally. I had opportunity to get rehired, but um, I, um, just can't work that life anymore. It's just, I it's just too much, and it's not good for my mental health, and I've had to um, learn to put my mental health first, and that's been challenging, but it's important so that I can be um, as happy as I can be and be healthy. um, now these past, I guess it's almost a year now, um, I have been dealing with depression, and um, in my experience, bipolar depression tends to not last as long. But I've got a lot of stuff going on in my personal life that's kind of exacerbated this depression. Losing my job, having to move back in with my parents, um, all of this stuff. Um, is really hard for me and has kind of exacerbated this depressive state that I was in. Um, for the first 3 months of it, I was barely able to get out of bed. Um, and then it's slowly gotten better. I've slowly been able to, I didn't crochet, even something as relaxing and like nice and potentially easy depending on what you're doing as crochet, I just couldn't do. My brain was just foggy, and my body fatigue was so tremendous. I felt like I was wearing like cement shoes everywhere I went, and it just was. I wasn't going out. I wasn't doing anything. Um, I just stayed inside and was depressed. Now, I know that sounds like a sob story, and you're like, I get it, you were sad, but it was beyond sad. It was a real downward spike in my mental health. And through the help of my wife, my therapist, my psychiatrist, my medications, you guys, honestly, you guys have been helpful. I have been able to kind of see the light again. And did I just say that? That's so corny. You know, God, I want to like punch myself in the face for that. But I've been able to resume some of my daily activities again and start enjoying life a little bit more. And although there's still some things that I'm too depressed some days to do, I'm getting past that and working through that. So, no matter what you're going through, no matter how hard things seem right now, things do get better. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. I've been through my share. I know a lot of people who've been through a lot worse. I'm saying that doesn't invalidate what I've experienced. Maybe you've been through less, but you're still having a hard time. Doesn't matter. It's your journey. It can still suck. So I just, want to say that it always does get better, even at times where we don't believe that it can. And if we learn anything from this Mental Health Awareness Month, I hope it's that we can accept ourselves and accept that we can be in good moods and bad moods, and we'll get through the bad moods. Just like, it's cyclical. Even if you're not bipolar, it's cyclical. And, having friends and having family, and chosen family, really makes a difference, big difference. So, and also, if you're like me, having a therapist makes a big difference, and getting medicated makes a big difference. Not for everybody, but it is for me. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this, and if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. I'd be happy to answer anything that you want to know. And hopefully this video was something to someone. Well, I love you guys. I'll talk to you later. Bye.